Hi there, it's Tracy Kiernan, and this acrylic painting tutorial will show you how to paint colorful music with acrylics on an 11 by 14 inch canvas. I love the background in this painting. It's so fun, so colorful. We'll be using all the colors of the rainbow for the background. And so let's go over brushes and colors that we'll be needing for this acrylic tutorial. I will be using raw sienna, cadmium red medium hue, primary yellow, dioxazine purple, primary blue, titanium white, Hooker's Green Hue Permanent, and Mars Black. These are Liquitex Basics colors. You can use any brand that you have available. You don't have to use these exact paints, and you can sub colors that are close to these. I used 3 brushes for this. A number 8 round brush. This is the Princeton Velvet Touch brush. Also a Princeton Velvet Touch brush, a number 4 round brush, and I used a Royal and Langnickel, I think this is a Zen brush. It's a 1-inch flat brush, and I use that for the background to get those big expressive paint strokes. If you don't have a 1-inch, you can use just a 3/4 inch flat brush that can create the same effect. And then if you don't have these exact brushes, you can use any brushes you have available. There is a traceable for this. I will be demonstrating this with the traceable. There's also a, you can draw this with chalk. So I'll show you a quick way you can draw this with chalk if you don't have or if you don't want to print the traceable, or if you don't like using traceables, you have that option too. We are going to go ahead and get started. So this is an 11 by 14 inch canvas placed in a vertical format. I am going to be painting the background first. So the whole background is done with this 1-inch flat brush that I have dipped in the water, and I kind of dried it a little bit with a towel. And we'll be using a lot of titanium white in this background, and the white is going to be really helpful for blending these colors. So what I did was I loaded my brush in some white and kind of applied that to the canvas first, and then grabbed my primary yellow. So we are doing these very large angled paint strokes, and the trick is to try not to overblend our colors. So in the upper right area, I created this kind of blob of white that blended to really bright yellow. And then without rinsing the brush, add a teeny bit of red to your brush. You only need a little bit of red to make this orange. And in fact, if you want to mix orange on your palette, do a little bit of red with a bunch of yellow, or you can blend the orange onto the canvas. But to create that orangey area, we just let that blend gently with the yellow without over blending it. And then we want to eventually create like a blobbed area of just red. So if you add more red to your brush, this is going to look more red than orange. And so we have kind of this orange area under the yellow, and then we have this red area in the center. In the upper left area, I'm going to do some more orange. So I'm just going to take this yellow and just kind of drag some of this orange and blend that. So if you need to add a little bit more white to your brush, that helps with blending of the colors, you can. And so I have almost the whole upper right half of the painting covered. So I want to start doing some of my cool colors. So that's the green, the purple, and the blue. And let's rinse our brush. So when we transition to this green, we don't want to mix any of that red into it because it's going to get kind of muddy, even though this green might end up touching some of the red anyway, but I'll show you a way to kind of transition that better. So with your green, add some yellow to it, so it's more of a yellow green. And if you need to add a teeny bit of white to that brush, you can. And I'm doing this light yellow greenish area on the left side edge of the canvas. And again, you're doing these angle paint strokes, blending the color on the canvas, but not blending it all the way. So here I'm adding more of this pure green. So we have this kind of a darker green in here that's not really mixed with that yellow. And we can start introducing the blue. So you don't need to rinse your brush off to get to blue because blue and green will blend beautifully together. So without rinsing the brush, add a little bit of blue to your brush, lower left part of the corner of the canvas. Take this blue, and again, angled paint strokes, blend that into your green, drag some of that green in with it. Grab some white on your brush. Just a little bit of white is needed. And look how pretty this is. Just drag that white in with your green and blue area. It creates this really pretty pop of bright teal right into the blue and green area. So just a little bit is needed. Just kind of drag it in there in angled directions and it will blend on your canvas. It's almost like we're just painting a bunch of big X's and they're all just kind of blending together. So this kind of blobbed area that I have left is going to be purple. So we're going to transition to purple and we need to rinse our brush off because purple and green don't really blend that well together. So rinse the brush off all the way. Let's grab some white. So this area right here where our red kind of meshes with the green, this is what I was talking about. So we can grab some of this white here and maybe just a little pop of yellow to kind of transition this reddish area into that green area. So I added a layer of white first, and then I'm just taking this kind of orange color and just gently kind of pushing it into the green area without allowing that red to blend with your green. So a little pop of red right here, but see how that's just kind of light right there. I'm going to let that be. I like how that little pop of light color just kind of stays there, adds some pretty variety in the background. So let's go to our purple, rinse the brush off, and grab your Dioxazine Purple. Also grab about equal parts white too. The Dioxazine Purple is such a dark color, so adding a whole bunch of white in there is really going to help brighten it up and also help you to blend it. So this is purple and white, and right here we have a little bit more of the blue color. And so blue and purple blend very nicely together. So we're just kind of doing that thing where they're just kind of blending, meshing together. Utilize your white, take that white and drag it in to some of the red areas. Red and purple will blend, so you can grab little pops of red in here. Red and purple and white. It creates this really gorgeous kind of bright magenta color. I was kind of bummed because our guitar is going to be covering that area, but that's okay. We can always switch our background around and put the guitar in a different spot if you want. And I'm going to get some more white onto my palette. So take this white, kind of drag that in. So we don't want the purple to mesh too much with this orange over here because that'll turn kind of brown. But taking that white helps get that to blend without getting too muddy. We can take maybe some red and white and use that over here. At this point, our canvas should be covered all the way. So if you need to go back and fill in some spots that are open, I don't recommend going back and blending this all up. I want to see the paint strokes, so that's why I'm not smoothing them out. That's kind of the point of this background. And also the point is it's a bunch of rainbow colors that still mesh together but don't blend all the way. So you don't want to overwork the background. Yours definitely looks different from mine. I did this painting twice and both times the background looked different. So I was trying to get the background to look like my original one and I got frustrated, but then I was like, well, this is actually really pretty. So yours is going to look absolutely different and that's okay. And then I'm just doing a little bit more blue down here and we can call this background done. One thing I would highly recommend is if you're doing this on the stretched canvas, definitely paint the sides. Take your colors, do rainbow colors on the side. So you don't have to do that like blending X style stroke thing on the side, but if you just take it and add whatever colors on the side and bring that, just kind of drag that down, it looks gorgeous when you paint the sides of this. So I'm just taking the full width of the brush and just dragging that color on the side. So I'm not going to show this all of the sides, but when you're done, it looks like this. So see how I just dragged the color on the side, just adds a nice touch to your finished painting. So we are going to go on to the next step. Really quick, I'm going to show you how to draw this with chalk if you don't want to use the traceable or if you don't have the ability to print it out. If you do have the ability to print it out, you can print it out on, I believe it's 2 sheets taped together, and then you'll just get a piece of graphite paper, place it under your guitar and trace it with the pencil. So it really literally just kind of lines up to the lower right part of the canvas, and you're just tracing it. So if you are drawing this with me, you can just use a regular piece of chalk or pencil. Start at the top center of the canvas and draw the neck of the guitar. So we have this very long rectangular shape that is very center in the canvas. So the width of that is about 1.25 inches. So you do two little marks for where that end will be. And then these are just 2 diagonal lines that go down. And it helps to use a ruler. So I'm going to grab my T-square, or just a straight edge. It doesn't have to be a T-square. So I'm going to do 2 diagonal lines, and these are going to be about 1.25 inches to 1.5 inches apart. So there's a line on the left, and then we'll do the line on the right. If you want to measure this, you can. So about 1.25 inches to 1.5 inches. Doing my second line down, making sure that that one is parallel to our first line. And then pretty much in the center, but a little bit more to the right of the center. So about maybe 4 inches, 4 to 5 inches. Make a little mark for the bottom part of the guitar. Make a second little mark about 1/2 inch to the left of it, since we're drawing the side of the guitar. And then about 7 or 8 inches high, so roughly in the middle of the canvas here, making another little mark so I know how tall or how high this is going to get. And I'm going to start sketching the body of the guitar. So this kind of curved right here. And then I'm going to kind of make it symmetrical. It's going to curve inwards this way. And this part also curves this way, so we see part of that inward curve. On the traceable template, it actually doesn't have that inward curve on the right, but we can adjust that to be different. And then we have that side piece that goes in like this, so we can see kind of the left side of the guitar. And then my neck rectangle angle is not completely centered, but that's okay. So we have that circle about right here. To see how it's not centered, we can adjust that. This part down here will be erased anyway. So this part is a rectangular part. It goes down. That part ends right there, and then we can erase those extra lines. And then we have the bridge, little rectangle. There's a basic sketch of this guitar. And then, so we have the piano keys. It's just basically 2 curvy lines going parallel to each other, and they're crossing the top part of the neck of the guitar. I don't recommend drawing all the piano keys in, just because the first layer, so we could go in there and draw them all in, but that's going to be erased anyway when we fill the first layer of paint. And I know if you did the traceable, it has you drawing those piano keys, and you can draw them in, and we'll just have to redraw them after the first layer of paint, and that'll make sense when we get to that step. So we are going to get ready with the painting part. So I did the traceable for this demonstration, and those are on the canvas. The steps are the same if you drew the guitar, only your paint or your chalk will erase as you paint this in. So you are going to load your palette with raw sienna and titanium white, and Mars Black. So the guitar is what we're painting first, and it's a combination of those three colors. So raw sienna, titanium white, and Mars Black. And you'll be using a number 8 round brush. So take your number 8 round brush, load that into the water, grab your raw sienna and titanium white, mix those together. It's going to create a really pretty light golden brown color. And let's start on the bottom left of the guitar. So I love this brush because of all the curves in this guitar. I like that I can use the smaller bristles to really get in there for some of those smaller curvy parts. And I can press down on this brush to make the larger curvy parts. So I'm going to mix more brown and white on my palette, do this part right here. So basically just kind of outlining the outer shape of the guitar. If you drew this in with chalk, you're really defining the shape because we drew it really sketchy, but now we're just defining that shape. And it might be slightly different from your chalk drawing, and your chalk will erase. Same thing with the traceable. If you need to adjust that, I can't say 100% that your traceable lines will erase because sometimes they don't. So try to get as close as possible to those lines, or go paint over those lines as much as possible so they're not visible in the end. Use different amounts of the raw sienna. So right now I'm loading my brush in raw sienna without the white, and I'm letting that blend on the canvas. I'm doing a round circle around the sound hole. Was a little disappointed that I'm losing this beautiful purple, but I am not trying to do 100% solid paint on this. In fact, if some of that purple is showing through the brown, that is okay. Makes a really pretty sort of underpainting layer in that. In the upper right here, because that brown was so close to that orange, I needed to change this color a little bit so it stands out. So I'm grabbing a little bit of black right here and just kind of outlining the edge of that with the black. Also grabbed a little bit extra white in there to kind of lighten it up so it kind of stands out a little bit better. But the point is that the whole guitar is not all solid the same brown. We are just kind of loosely, gently blending our white into this. I'm going to go around the bridge. I'm not going to paint the bridge yet. I'm just going to go around that rectangle shape. Curvy paint strokes. Try not to overblend your color. And also, if there's purple showing through, that is okay. Next, I am going to mix a darker brown. So I'm going to take a little bit of this black and brown. So about equal parts black and brown, maybe a little bit more brown than black because this is kind of it's going to be a really dark brown color if you do too much black. But just so that this is darker, I'm going to take my brush and paint the side of the guitar. So the nice thing about this brush is we can get that little point right there, and then we can press down on the brush, and that paint stroke will get thicker on the side of the guitar. And then thin. And then we have a little bit of an outline in the upper right part, but we don't really see the side of the guitar right there. And let's start doing the neck of the guitar. So I can use the same dark brown color to just start sketching that rectangular shape. If you need to switch to a flat brush for this, for better control of this straight line, you can. I was able to do this with the round brush, just outlining the shape of that. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then I'm going to use the side of the brush to paint this in. So it's that dark brown color, so that black mixed with the raw sienna. And I'm just filling that in pretty solid, but you know what? If there's yellow or orange of that underpainting showing through, that's okay. Let's grab a little bit more of that raw sienna, teeny bit of black, and start. Continue to fill this in solid, but not completely 100% solid. So maybe this is a little bit darker down here, and then it blends to kind of like a lighter color. But I'm going to do this thing where we're not blending the brown and that darker black all the way. So we have some color variation. Again, if this is easier to do the neck with a flat brush, even that 1-inch flat brush that we used earlier for the background, you can use that brush instead. I'm going to do some highlights on the guitar, and you can do this before the brown dries. Load your brush in the white. You might actually need to rinse the brush. Yeah, I'm going to need to rinse the brush because that was a little bit messy. I'm going to rinse the brush off and try this again. We're going to add white shiny highlights to the guitar. It gives it some fun character. So load the 8 round in your titanium white. So we have this little curvy white stroke over here in the upper right. And then over here in the lower left. So see how it curves and goes in that direction of that curve. It doesn't touch the side of the guitar. It's a little bit more to the right. And then another curvy white line over there. So on this very, very side part, we can add a curve right here and right here. That adds another kind of fun 3D effect with that shiny effect. And then we can paint the inside of the sound hole. So here's what I did because I did not want to lose all this purple. I'm gonna paint the circle, but I'm gonna leave a very slither, and you can even leave a bigger slither of purple still showing through. But instead of taking that black and going all the way to the edge, there's a very, very thin little slither of purple along the circumference of that circle still kind of showing. This is just Mars black. We don't have to blend anything else in this, at least not for now. Actually, what we're going to do is grab our white right here on the right part. Just take that white and do a curve on the right side. So we have a little bit of 3-dimension kind of, you can kind of see the little inside of it. And then the bridge, we're going to do this with black. I'm just going to use my 8 round brush for this as well. And I kind of left a little bit of purple on some of the outer, like a little slither of purple still showing through on the outer edge of the shape. So I'm going to rinse that off of my brush, and I'm going to go back and add a little bit more raw sienna, kind of like a second coat, but not really a full second coat. With the raw sienna and a little bit of titanium white, and just going in here and just kind of using the side of my brush to just kind of add lighter color in there. It really just adds some color variation with this lighter color. And you want to just make sure your paint strokes are going in the direction, like around the bridge shape and in curvy directions around our circle. Next, we are going to paint the piano keys, and let's rinse our brush off and let's get some fresh titanium white onto our palette. And I'm going to still use the number 8 round brush for this. And so the best way to do this I found was just to paint this shape solid white first and then go back and redraw the keys if you haven't drawn the key, or if you did draw the keys, just so you're gonna have to redraw them. Or you can, if you did draw the keys, you can actually go back over them darker so that when you do this first layer of white paint, that will show through this layer. Otherwise, you'll have to redraw them. And you can do kind of a thin layer of white. I'm actually going to water this down slightly, although I would recommend using not dirty wet or dirty paint water for this, but it actually worked out fine. So a little bit of water into that white to kind of loosely water that down, so this layer is actually kind of thin, so we can see a little bit of that color showing through. It's not a super opaque solid white color. That also helps to kind of see your drawing through this first layer. I'm going to take this and it's going to overlap the top part of the neck of the guitar. And just fill that shape in, and then when that shape dries, we can go and paint the black lines of the piano keys. I'm going to grab some black onto my brush here, just on the tip of the brush. And I'm going to go in here and just kind of outline the left part of the guitar. Over here, just a very, very thin outline. And then this part right here. So you have those two lines on the side of the guitar. On the edge of both of those lines, outlined with black. This is really helpful for defining the shape. Helps get that to pop a little bit better. And then right here, outline. That really helps get that to pop, especially because it's a similar color to the background. I'm going to outline the bottom part of the neck. I'm rinsing my brush, and I'm going to do the little bridge pins next. So there's 6 of them, and instead of using the bristles, I'm going to use the back of my paintbrush to do just little dots. So there's 6 dots, 6 pins, because there's going to be 6 strings. So do 6 little white dots. And we'll do the strings later after everything dries, and I actually am going to use a paint pen for those strings later. So next we can do the heart, and I'm switching to a number 4 round brush for this, so a smaller brush than that other one that we've been using. And I'm going to do a heart down here, so I'm doing white first, and then I'll do red over the white, just because there's dark colors in this background and the red will just be kind of too see-through for these hearts. So I'm just going to do a white heart first, and I'll paint red over it. So there's a heart down here, the lower left of the painting, and then there's going to be a heart in the upper right area of the painting. And you're welcome to change the composition of this if you wanted to add something else, maybe a different instrument or more hearts or more music notes. And then another heart in the upper right. So you don't need to wait for the white to dry all the way to paint the red. In fact, if the white blends with the red, it creates a pretty color variation. So this is Cad Red Medium Hue and the number 4 round brush. And I'm just going back over the 2 hearts that I painted with this red, and it is blending a little bit with the white, and that's okay. I'm going to rinse my brush off next and start painting these music notes in. So the music notes are going to be done with the color Mars Black. And you can decide if you want to use the 4 round, the 8 round, or even a paint pen for this. I'm still using the number 4 round, and so we can do our double note. So 2 little ovals, vertical line, and then our top piece. So you can do a variety of different music notes. This one's going to be a quarter note, and then the little flag piece on top, I'm using the 8 round brush to get that kind of that pointed line. So you can, I'm switching between the 2 brushes because it's easier to paint a little oval with the 4 round brush, but to get these thin lines and for the stem and the flag part, it's easier to use the 8 round because the 8 round has the smaller bristles that you can do smaller lines with. So this flag piece is actually going to curve up and down. And I'll do another double note. Eighth note. So it's kind of fun. One thing I found helpful with doing these music notes is just go on Google and type in music notes, and you can see different kinds, and you do music note clip art, See different styled ones. So we're going to paint the black keys of the piano next, and I recommend that you get a pencil and just kind of redraw the lines in the black piano keys. You can even take the Traceable template and place that back over your painting as long as it's dried, and like retrace that onto the canvas. Just make sure everything's dry, and then get your graphite paper and just retrace your keys. Or if you can still see your lines through the keys, you can. Or you can draw these in. So we have 3 lines over here that are spaced apart where these 3 black keys are, and the black keys are going over the lines. So the lines of the keyboard go to the black key, rectangle shape. So there's 2 keys at here, and then a line that goes all the way across. Another black key line, black key shape, and then 2 more lines for your piano keys. And then you're going to use your Mars Black and paint the rectangle shapes in. So we have 3 of these black keys. So it helps to just outline the shape of it first and then fill it in solid. And then there's space, and then we have 2 of the flat and sharp keys. And because our piano is going in like a wavy direction, not all the keys have to be the same size. In fact, if you end up making them slightly different sized, it's fine, just because of the way the shape of this piano is going. And we have 1 more over here. And then we can outline the lines on the keyboard that are dividing each of the white keys. I'm going to start by outlining the top edge of the keyboard. So this is just a solid, very thin black line. And then these vertical lines that are going in between the black keys and all the way to the bottom. And then we have 1 line over here that's going from the bottom all the way to the top edge. And then these lines. If you find this hard to do with the round brush, you can do this with a black paint pen instead. This line goes to the black key. And then this bottom line we can actually loosely outline, but I'm not going to do a super solid continuous line. I'm just going to do a very, like I'm holding my brush very lightly. And then I'm going to do these sort of expressive motion lines. So this is just, you're doing this very loosely as well, but 2 little lines that kind of go in the curvy direction. So these are outside of the piano and it gives this sort of like movement in the painting, adds to the energy of it. So I'm doing this on the outside curvy parts of the guitar. You can even do some motion lines on the side of the neck of the guitar. And next I'm going to do the strings of the guitar. So we have 6 strings, and I'm using a white Posca paint pen. This is the very fine point one. You could take a ruler and do these perfectly, but honestly, it's not a realistic guitar. So I am just doing these lines very loosely, and they're not perfectly straight. We don't see the whole line go all the way across the neck of the guitar. My paint pen is acting up. I have to get that, press the tip of the pen to get more of that color on the end of the paint pen. But you see how it's just very loosely. It's not perfect at all. And that's kind of the point. So you can do the same thing I'm doing if you don't have a paint pen, but use the 8 round brush and use the tip of the brush, or even like a tiny detail brush. But we can see the lines, they start at the pins and they just kind of disappear and show up over the sound hole and the neck a little bit. I'm going to do 5 lines over here for my treble clef staff, and so these are going wavy, kind of the same direction as the piano. I didn't want to do these lines in black because I thought it would be too busy. I like the subtle look of the white. But if you want to change that and do black lines instead, you can. I'm going to paint a treble clef next, and it helps to look at a picture of a treble clef to do this, because they've always been tricky for me to draw and paint. I'm going to start with the little circle at the bottom, and this line is going to go up. It's going to curve around. I'm going to switch to my 8 round brush here. It's going to curve around to the right, and it's going to curve back up, and it's going to hug the G line, which is the second line. And then I'm going back and kind of filling in these lines. I'm going to add some highlight lines to the treble clef. So using the titanium white in the 8 round brush. So just on some parts of the curves, it doesn't really matter where, but not the whole thing. So just taking that white and just kind of going around some of that. The black isn't dry all the way, so it is blending a little bit, but it just adds a pop of shiny to the treble clef. And we can add highlights to the notes and the hearts. So using the 4 round brush, do little kind of highlight lines on the inside curves of the hearts. And then you can do those expressive lines on the outside of the hearts as well. And then you can do little highlights on your notes. So on the little oval shape, little curve, and then on the little flag at the top, little curve. So that just adds some fun character to all of your notes. Gonna make this part have another coat of white just to kind of brighten that up. I'm gonna go back over my strings with the white and the 8 round, and I'm just going to not paint the entire line, but just right here, make that a little bit lighter, whiter, so it shows up a bit better, but still not a continuous line all the way across. I'm also going to add another note in here. And like I said, you can add more notes or not do as many notes, but I'm just going to do one more quarter note right here. This one's going to have two little flag lines. So using the 8 round brush to do the little flags, they're pointed on the end and kind of thicker at the base. And then add the little highlights to it. This is the number 8 round brush. A little white curve and a little white curves on top. I'm going to rinse and add white again. This time adding some highlight to the black keys. So each of the black keys, I'm just going and doing the bottom right corner of them, and that gives it that little three-dimensional look, that little pop of highlight. And you're just painting the bottom right corner. And I decided to do maybe some more brighter lines for the strings over here. I didn't do the fret lines of the guitar, the horizontal lines along the neck. If you want to, you can do those lines, but you don't have to. The last thing I'm going to do is sign my name, and we are done with colorful music. I just love the colors in this painting. So fun, so energetic. Hope you enjoyed this one. Thanks for watching, and thanks for painting with me.